In episode 103, we asked the question, why do we Christians struggle with money the way we do? And this is a continuation of that conversation. The most important part that we're going to cover in episode 104 is to show you how the business system is actually a Bible invention. The purpose of our channel is to demonstrate how the principles of the kingdom of God are actually powerful in helping us to solve everyday problems that we have. And we do that by coupling the wisdom of the Bible with the practicality of science. What we have found is where the two come together, magic happens. Now, what I explained in the previous video was how I found myself in a situation where I was doing very well and then I lost everything. And I was trying to figure out why was that the case. And what I explained was I started doing a lot of digging myself and I came up with what to me looked like a very powerful system, which is effectively what the Bible talks about. Now, what I didn't explain there was when things had fallen apart and I was trying to figure out, the first step was to try and not to try, but to read what a lot of the books written by Christians say about money. Now, a lot of what these books say is actually good advice. But what I found missing was what we in scientific terms called the superstructure. If you see engineers building a bridge, that bridge is built on the basis of principles, like universal principles. And it's those principles that provide the superstructure. So in science, we usually have what we call a process, and a process is based on the principles. That's what I mean by superstructure. So what I found in a lot of the books that I read, and they were like good books, okay, the ones that I read, obviously I didn't read every book. What I found missing was there would be step one, step two, and then step three and four are not there. So there was no coherent flow. Okay, start here when you're struggling with money, and then you do two and three and four and all the way, and then you'll have a solution. There were a lot of things like, okay, you do this and do this, but some of the things were not clear how they were going to turn around. So it was really my training in science that helped me to see, oh, okay, so actually the Bible provides core principles, and science comes and unpacks those principles. This is how gravity works. This is how the universal laws of motion, like Newton's laws, work, and those kind of things. So the two working together, it's just a powerful combination. Now, as part of that search, remember what had happened was there was a period in my early career when everything I touched turned to gold, metaphorically, obviously. And at a certain point, I just lost everything. And I thought the situation will come back to normal once I had reestablished intimacy with the Lord, but that didn't happen. So I like, okay, what am I missing? And I started digging deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And what became very clear, and you find this right from the beginning of the Bible all the way towards the end. This is the issue. God says, if you hear my voice and you carry out my instructions, you will be blessed. Hear what I'm saying, carry out those things that I'm saying you need to do, and the blessings would follow you. Now, it's important to understand by blessings, we're not talking necessarily about only spiritual blessings, like we're going to go to heaven and all that kind of stuff. We're talking about physical blessings, like you will have a lot of cattle, you will have a lot of money. That's what God is promising. And He's been saying that right throughout the Bible. So we can't now in the New Testament come around and say, oh no, these blessings are only spiritual. God has always been promising His children to have abundance. But it's important to put that in context. Abundance means spiritual benefits, but it also means natural benefits. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be driving around in a Rolls Royce. That may be part of your assignment. I mean, Apostle Paul wasn't this wealthy guy because his assignment didn't require him to have that kind of physical wealth. The point I'm making is God has always had a system for you and I to get abundance. We're going to read this in the book of Exodus in chapter 23. This is what it says. So you shall serve the Lord your God, and he will bless your bread and your water, and I will take sickness away from you. None shall miscarry or be barren in your land. I will fulfill the number of your days. Notice how the blessings are conditional upon doing certain things. So God is saying, here is my promise, and the promise is you will get this, but for you to get this, you need to do this in the middle. And a very important point that I need to stress is you need to focus on meeting the conditions. Don't chase the blessings. It sounds like the same thing, but I think that emphasis in focus is actually quite key. You focus on meeting the conditions. What are the conditions? You hear God's voice, you do what it says. And one of the biggest starting points was to understand the structure of human being. Now, we spoke about it in a bit of detail in episode 103 and the earlier episode, but this is important because I want to talk about it a little bit here. You and I, as human beings, are spiritual entities that live in a physical packaging called body. In other words, we live in two worlds at the same time, just like a tree, just like a plant. We live in the unseen world, the spiritual world, just like a plant lives in the unseen world below the surface of the ground. But we also live in the seen natural world, just like a plant lives in the seen world above the surface of the soil. Now, the important part about that is the spiritual component has two elements, the soul and the spirit. Okay, but the key thing here is the spiritual component is wired for relationships. That's why we human beings can't live by ourselves. We always live in communities because we are built to desire intimacy, first with God and second with our fellow men. So that's the spiritual component. The natural component, it's about increase. We made in the image of God, the God who is a creator, God, the God who is a builder. We are supposed to do the same thing. And it's through building, through creating, that we act like him, that we also mature in identity as sons of God. But where does it say what the roadmap is? Remember, I spoke about the superstructure earlier on. Superstructure is another way of saying the roadmap. Where does God give us the roadmap of how his things are supposed to work? That roadmap is found at the very beginning of the Bible. We find it in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. This is what it says. Then God blessed them, and God said to them, be fruitful, multiply, fill the earth, and subdue it. Have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the air, and over every living thing that moves on the earth. Now, this is what it says. And essentially, this is just a summary of what I'm going to explain to you. It's saying the business system is actually a Bible invention. How so? There are four steps that I mentioned. The first one is be fruitful. The second one is multiply. The third one is fill the earth. The fifth one is subdue it. And you have, if you do this four, the natural consequence is dominion. It's you dominating a certain sector, whatever sector that is. Now, let's go into it or in a little bit more detail. Now, number one, and this is the most powerful one. Once you understand it, you begin to see so much that perhaps you may not have seen before. It says, be fruitful. Now, usually when you hear people talk about be fruitful, they're talking about having more babies, having more children. But this is a lot deeper than that. Being fruitful means coming up with a solution to a pertinent problem. Now, let's talk about a fruit, right? A fruit is there to provide you with nourishment. Let's take the example of a peach, for example. It provides you with nourishment. You eat the fruit, but the fruit has a secret. Once you finish eating the juicy part of the fruit, you have a pip in the middle, and that pip has the DNA to make not just another fruit, but a tree that will make more fruit. So essentially, being fruitful means this is what you have. You have the opportunity and the ability and the potential to create something more. That's what being fruitful means. This is the unique thing about the fruit. You eat the fruit and you get to the pip, but its job is for you to throw it away, and then it starts building something bigger. So being fruitful is really to take something small and begin to build something much bigger. That's really what being fruitful means. Essentially, you and I were born with, we explained this in earlier videos, you're born with a purpose and a set of talents. Now, the family helps you to take this and build skills, and with the skills, you create a solution, and you take that solution from the family, or that you created perhaps working with your family, and you go and sell it to the tribe. And that's really where growth begin to happen. That's the fruitfulness that we're talking about. You are here to create a solution to a specific problem. Only you should know what that is, and it's part of your purpose. And once you do that, you are being fruitful. In the previous episode, we spoke about the parable of the talents and the parable of the 10 minas. In both cases, the master expected his servants to take the little that he had given them to grow it into something bigger. We're talking about fruitfulness there. So, in summary, to be fruitful is to come up with a solution to a pertinent problem. A problem that people struggle with, you create a solution for that, and you improve the lives of other people. Now, in business terms, we have that coming generally from research and development departments or the innovation department. But essentially, it's an idea, and then you play around with the idea, you test it, and you optimize it, and voila, this is a solution that addresses this problem that so many people struggle with. Number one is we came up with a solution to a patent problem. Number two, we start replicating that solution. That's what a factory setup does. It takes this solution, and then we make more of those solutions so that we can help more people. And that's what multiply refers to. The third step is to fill the earth. So we have a solution, and in the factory, we make more of it, we multiply. And what's the point of multiplying? We're not going to multiply it and live in the warehouse somewhere. We have to ship it to other parts of the land so more people can benefit from the solution. We call that in business the supply chain system, or the distribution system. We moving stuff throughout. I mean, that plastic packet that you get, or that packet you get after buying stuff from your store, that's a distribution tool, because it usually comes written on the outside. I bought this from this store. It's advertising what they've done. So it's a distribution tool. The fourth part is to subdue something is effectively to manage it appropriately. I mean, you in control. So this is what's going to happen. This is how I'm going to do this and stuff. So you are in charge. You are in control. Now, let me explain. There are a lot of companies over the years that have had the best ideas and the best products. They have had the best factory setups, the most advanced and the best, and they've also had the best supply chain system. So we've had a lot of companies excelling when it came to these three, but many of those companies died because the management of the company wasn't very good. So you can excel here, but this is the key. How do you manage everything? There are people we know, they win like lotteries, or they get inheritances, they're sitting with a lot, but because of poor management, they end up losing everything. Your journey is about management. We spoke about identity, how you becoming more like Christ. Remember, we spoke about fractal earlier, how you becoming more like Christ. And that's an issue of management. You managing yourself, because the entire journey from birth to death, it's about you managing yourself. And as you manage yourself in line with what the gospel says, you becoming the best version of yourself. That's really what it's about. Come up with a good solution to a problem. You multiply, you fill the earth, and you manage wisely, appropriately, you end up dominating your area of the market. I mean, Apple, everybody wants to have Apple products because they have perfected the system. That's why they dominating, even if they don't necessarily dominate in terms of physical numbers, but people who want Apple products, they just go crazy over it because that's what they want. So Apple dominates that area in their minds. That's essentially what we say. So we're saying the business system, it's actually a Bible invention, and it's written right there at the beginning of the Bible in Genesis chapter 1, verse 28. Again, we're saying, how is it possible that our God has given us the system, but we are the ones who are saying, oh, business is evil. Business is evil. I don't want to do business. It comes back to what we discussed in episode 103. The fundamental reason so many of us as Christians are poor is because we believe that making money is evil. And God has never said that. What God has said is, if you put money ahead of me, that is a problem. But if you take money that I have made available to you, you use that to help people and to serve me. That's what money is. Money is supposed to be your servant, not you allowing it to become your master. That's really what the issue is. So God is saying, here is a system. Number one, we spoke about this in episode 103. It's hear my voice, do what I say, and you will be successful. Now, here we're explaining what that system looks like. Number one is intimacy with God. Number two is create, build, increase. How do you do that? Here's a system. It's a business system that He has given us. Now, I always ask the question, what would life be like on earth if the majority of us Christian people own these businesses? Now, I'm not saying they're not owned by the people who are there are not Christian, but I'm saying if not just own, but if we practice and implemented everything based on the system of the kingdom of God. How much of the money, the profits that we make every year, would we shaft and shunt in the direction of helping poor people, helping the needy, doing things? A lot of these companies have money stashed away somewhere because that's how the system of the world operates. Now, in the next video, I'm going to explain why we have two systems in the world and what the two systems are. In a nutshell, it's the Babylonian system and the kingdom of God system, or the biblical economic system. Now, you will see they approach everything very differently. So a lot of the companies that we have, they operating on the basis of the Babylonian system. And so the reason you and I should be out there in business is we should be operating our business on the basis of the kingdom of God system. Now, we'll discuss that in episode 105. Essentially, we're saying the blessings that God promised. Hear my voice, carry out my instructions, and you will be blessed. Come through us serving other people. We build intimacy and we serve other people. This is what it says in Proverbs chapter 11, verse 26. The people curse him who withholds grain, but blessing will be on the head of him who sells it. What does it say? It emphasizes the importance of going out there, creating solutions, and selling those solutions to other people. What is the point of you having this product that can help everybody, but you keep it in your head, or you don't want to go out and sell it? And that's why, again, we talk about the importance of selling. And again, I've said, if you feel selling is not your strong point, partner with somebody else. Remember, the tribe, it's about strategic partnerships. That's how you create things extensively. You work with somebody who has different types of skills, and that's why we as human beings are supposed to work together to create and build more things. And I know part of the fear with selling is primarily because we have been exposed to people who sold us stuff that we didn't want, and we tend to think that is what selling is about. The core message here is people are drawn to solutions. So if you have a solution that works, people will come and buy it if they understand what it's about and if it's priced adequately, like fairly. And we're not saying you must give people things for free all the time. There are people who should be given free stuff. These are the poor people, but the rest of the people need to buy it. The person ends up with more use value than the cash value that they paid for the product. What do you think? Do you think I have made a good enough case for you to say, oh, okay, the reason I'm poor is because I haven't been doing particularly the priority two actions, and I'm going to go ahead and start improving on those so I can end up with more in my bank account, so I can do more things that God has put in my heart, but also so I can help other people. So what stands out for you as a challenge, something that you fearful of, or something that you say, this I'm most definitely gonna do? I hope you found this video helpful. And I always say, if you have found value and you think, oh, I wish so and so, I wish certain people to really be exposed to this kind of information, the way to shout out to them is by subscribing, by making comments, by liking the video, because that way Mr. YouTube will say, oh, okay, so there's value in this stuff. So let me share it with other people. So that's really your contribution towards helping other people discover this information that's so valuable. See you in the next video. Bye bye.